I'm out here at the end of Interior Ditch on Great Dismal Swamp National Wildlife Refuge, and we're at the end of 2025, and I have Lake Drummond behind me here, which is now considered a reflective area. So I thought maybe it would be a good time to reflect on some things from the end of the year here. If I flip the camera around here in a minute, you'll see behind me what used to be a tunnel of trees. It was completely forested out to this point. Looking back west, there's no trees anymore. This whole area burned 20 years almost going on that the first fire occurred on this area, and again, if I step out of the frame, this long straight couple miles of road used to be forested. First fire in 2026 or 2006 burned about 300 acres on the north side of the road. Effectively removed all the overstory. Probably 75% was killed. Fire in these organic soils is not kind to the overstory, and the hardwood overstory that was in there pretty much was decimated. Then in 2008, we had the first fire on the south side of the road. Burned most of everything between here and Coral Peak Ditch. Spotted over this road, burned the north side of the road again, expanded the fire footprint in there, and then everything that was left in there standing killed it. Pretty much killed everything on the north side of the road and the south side of the road in '08. And then we had another fire start between here and the next ditch to the south in between, and burned all this again and expanded the whole fire footprint again. And the result of that was a third fire within 5 years here in the south and the north, and what we have left is a lowered elevation because it slicked off probably 3 to 4 feet of the organic soils. The change in elevation is going to affect what comes back in it. Now, fire on these organics burns in not entirely uniform pattern when it burns the organic soil, and this is what we kind of learned after the second fire. And you have areas where it may burn down 3 feet of organic, other areas where it merely burn a foot of the organics off. So it's this kind of checkerboard in a micro setting out across the landscape. And what we learned is that where you'll have regeneration of hardwood or the conifers or cedar typically comes in on these areas where it was not as severely burned. So you'll have some pine coming back in here and you'll have this 5 to 8 year pine regeneration you'll see out there, and where that's coming in is on these little high patches. And what you'll see across the swamp where it's been burned in multiple decades in the past, where you have mature standing trees, they're on these hummocks, and this is where this regen has occurred on these areas where you've had organic soil loss, but you've had this checkerboarded pattern, and now you have large mature 50 to 80 or older year-old pine growing on these hummocks that were burned in the past but left higher than surrounding vegetation. There's also been, a fair amount of subsidence of the organic soils through the years, and that's just exacerbated, where these high and low spots are across the landscape. And what we found, in trying to prescribe burnout here, any of these areas, is that this significant difference in elevation between, the surrounding areas and these hummocks where the pine, mature pine or other is, they would dry out, the hummocks would dry out, the surrounding ground was lower in elevation. That difference in micro elevations made it very difficult to burn, because you'd have to get one area dried out enough to burn it while not engaging these hummocks, which is just about impossible to do, we found. So prediction-wise, when I retired in 2017, my prediction after the fires of 2011, and what we had left out here was essentially, a marsh with a lot of Phragmites out there that we tried to control with herbicide applications, marginally successful. But we have a marsh, and my prediction was my thought was, we had an opportunity now to do prescribed fire on these areas that had burned. We had control lines around them, thanks to the fire. We had a lake out here as a buffer, and since it was a marsh, we should keep it as a marsh and burn it. And that idea was not accepted. It was what I considered adaptive management. It was not what the refuge was founded for or intended for, but it's what we had. So I thought, well, we should work with what we have. Well, that didn't come to pass. And my feeling was, well, it's going to burn again, because it's now on a different fire regime. It's on a more accelerated fire regime, because now it's marsh, it's a wetland, it's fine fuels, it's going to burn again. Well, here I stand at the end of 2025, and it hadn't burned again. Whether it does in the future or not, I don't know. I'm out of the prediction business. I'm wearing a Fish and Wildlife Service fire hat, but I'm not in the business anymore. I do think, it's a lot more susceptible to burning or to a wildfire event now. The swamp is pretty wet right now. It's winter time. This is high water time for the refuge, but we're also perhaps entering another drought cycle. And if it burns, what will happen is this fire footprint will expand, because there's no stopping a fire out here now. The elevation's been lowered. The fire lines are closed in. What is going to burn is what will burn out here. And where it'll go to the north, probably not much further, just because of what stopped it the last time is the change in elevation, the change in vegetation. As it goes north, it will enter, a hardwood dominated forest, which won't burn that well. To the south, however, much different story. Much more pine, much more cedar, remnant, and much more of what we consider pine picosin. So a fire started off of any of this area to my south will likely run through this regrown fine fuel area, and bang into the cedar remnant, pine remnant, picosin remnant that we have, and the planted cedar that remains. And that was always my thought when I was working out here. Hasn't come to pass since I retired. Whether it comes to pass in the future, I don't know. I think what we're on is a 20 to 25 year fire regime cycle out here, and it's been 20 years since the actually it's been 25 if you count the Core Peak Road fire in 2004, which is disconnected from these fire events, but pretty handy to them. If you factor that in, we're at that 25 year peak of the cycle. So maybe 2026 is going to be the year when it resumes.